Hi friends, hope you are all doing well today. So today I'm going to make a video about how to write a letter of recommendation. And typically you require letter of recommendations for applications for PhD programs, for various postdoctoral fellowships, for any kind of university position and so on. So this is a part of the process if you are in any university or research institute type of system. Now, one of the things which happens is that we never get any formal training about how to write a letter of recommendation. And very often, if we have had somebody write a letter of recommendation for us in the past, we never got to see those letters because they were documents which are directly sent to the universities where you apply and so on. So there's going to be a certain time in your life that some student or person is going to come to you and say, hey, I'm applying to this university, can you write a letter of recommendation for me? So today I'm going to discuss how you can go about writing a letter of recommendation. I'll give you a brief outline on this. So essentially the first thing to contemplate is whether you should be writing a letter of recommendation or not. And one of the rules is that if you do not know the person sufficiently well, if you cannot give them a proper or reasonably detailed letter of recommendation, then I would suggest politely tell them that you cannot write a letter for them and then get on with your work. And this is important because a lukewarm letter or a very sparse letter comes across as quite bad for the person who is applying, and it may actually lead to a rejection. In case his remaining application is good, that would not be a service for him. In fact, it may be a disservice to give a lukewarm letter of recommendation. Remember that nowadays most people are writing profuse letters, so that's something to keep in mind. So I would say when you start the letter, you start it with dear colleague or dear professor. Don't use dear sir, madam, because that's kind of dated. In the first paragraph, you can start with something like, I am very pleased to write a letter for Mr. Smith for University XYZ for position of postdoctoral researcher or PhD student or assistant professor, as the case may be. So this is the place where you mention three important facts: to whom you are writing the letter, for whom you are writing the letter, and what is the position for which you are writing the letter. These three are very important because they set the momentum for this letter. Immediately following the sentence, you can write that you have known this student in what capacity. So you may have known this person as a student in your class, you may have known this person as his master's or PhD supervisor, you may have known this person as a research colleague or a collaborator. So in all these cases, you can just mention in what capacity you have known the student or the person, and you can also mention how long you have known this person. Maybe you knew him for 1 semester or 1 year, or if you are a PhD supervisor for 4 to 5 years, or if you are a colleague, you may have known this person for 10 years while he was working at your university. So of course the length of time for which you have known the person will come across as a positive thing. It will add more weightage to the letter in case, of course, it is a positive letter, which it should be. Now following this, in the next paragraph, you can give a brief summary about the person's background, and this is just to prepare the case for the committee looking at this letter. Maybe you can mention where this person did his degrees from, how they came to your university, and what have they been doing at your university for the last few semesters or few years. If this is a student, you can mention their GPA at this point, and you can mention if they are very good in certain courses or if they have got certain prizes and so on, or maybe they are the department topper. Those things matter a lot for universities. Now following this paragraph, you have one more paragraph which is the main paragraph of this letter, and here you give your information specifically regarding how you know this person. So for example, if this was a student in your class, you can mention how the student performed in your class. Did he participate in the class discussions? Were his projects very good? Did he write a very good computer program during the project, and so on? So any positive attributes about the class should come here. If you were his PhD supervisor or his master's thesis supervisor, you can mention the broad research topic, the main problem the student has solved, and also any resulting publications in conferences and journals, as the case may be. At this point, you can also mention three main things. One is about his research capability. Second is if you see anything positive about his teaching capability. And the third is about his communication skills. So some snippets of these information may come to you from his performance in research, from how this person may have taken part in some conference presentations, maybe taught a couple of lectures in a class and those came out to be very well, and so on. Now, communication skills are of course very important in any academic setup. So here any positive comment is very good, especially if the student is a non-native speaker of the English language. Then these are looked on very positively by any committee member. Now finally, after this main paragraph, I would add one more paragraph which summarizes the soft skills of this person. So here the soft skills would mean collegiality, communication skills, capability of teamwork, and so on. So these are very important skills because in many situations when a problem does happen between a prospective or a student and a supervisor, or between the person and the system concerned, it really often has to do with soft skills, because the hard skills are quite well documented in the transcript, in the standardized course, in the competitive exam results, and so on. It's the soft skills which are often the cause of human resource type of problems. So that's something important to keep in mind here. And if you have a lot of misgivings about the person's soft skill, I would suggest that you should be very cautious about writing a letter for this person, because then unfortunately this person may go and things may not work out for them and it may all be a negative story. So you may want to prevent that in the first place. Now finally, you should mention that you are recommending this person very strongly. And these words are important because, like I mentioned before, most letters of recommendation nowadays are quite superlative. People write words like brilliant, intelligent, smart, and so on. So you can at least write, I recommend this person very strongly for the position which they are going for in a given university. So that's something very important, that you conclude the letter like that. Now finally, I should mention that there are people who say things like they read between the lines in letters of recommendation and so on. And this is very important to keep in mind, is that you try to be as specific as possible, as thorough as possible in writing letters. Do not use language which is slippery or can have double meaning, because that may hurt the person and have negative consequences as far as his or her application process is concerned. Now in many cases when students are applying to universities, they do spend a lot of money on application fees. So it's a good idea to write a good letter of recommendation if you want to support their case and help them to go on for graduate study or postdoctoral research. Finally, if you have any particular prizes to your name, if you have obtained any fellowships and so on, you can sign off and write these after your name as postnomials. So all these will strengthen your case. And if you have a web page where you have given details about your publication, maybe your Google Scholar profile and some of these things, you can provide that at the end of the letter. Now typically many people say that the letter should be 1 page long, but I have a somewhat different opinion for this. I think the letter can be 1 to 2 page long, and essentially a more detailed letter of recommendation is good. Make it 12-point font, make it 1.5 spacing so that people can read it properly, or in fact if you want even double spaced. And do not bother about 1 page, 2 page or 3 page. You can go up to 3 page. Now the length of the letters become longer depending on the seniority of the position. So if you are writing a letter for a UG student, that will probably be 1 page long, because it's mostly going to be about coursework and some other things the student may be doing on the side. If it's about a PhD or master student, it can be more detailed because you have to give some background about this person's research capability. If it's for a faculty position, that letter can be substantially detailed. It can be 2, 3, 4 or even 5 pages long. I have seen people writing pretty long letters, and essentially in those long letters what they do is they go through some of the important papers of the person in detail, and they give out a whole background about what they see is the research work of the person. So that's a detailed letter, but that's something which is very sought after by any committee because it essentially gives them a bird's eye view on the candidate. And remember that the people in the committee may not be experts in the field, and so they are relying on your letter to figure out more about the candidate. So that was my take on letters of recommendation and how important they are as far as the academic setting is concerned. And so I hope this video will help you in writing letters of recommendation. And if you are a student or somebody who wants to get a letter of recommendation written by somebody else, then you also know what are the things you need to develop in terms of your skills, in terms of your GPA, in terms of your background, publications, and so on, which will provide enough information to this person to write a good letter for you. So I hope you enjoyed and benefited from this video. Stay tuned to my channel for more such videos. See you soon.